Hello, everybody. Ben Rogers here to recap the Raptors' another heartbreaking loss, 104-107 to the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah,
Riker.
I'm disappointed in this game. Yeah. I mean, you said it yourself before we started this that you're really not even in the mood to chat about this one.
Yeah.
So we'll jump right into it. It had me confused for Tuesday because the trash was on display. I thought it was garbage day. The Raptors started off really poor in the first quarter. Just talk about what happened.
Man, so they started off just slow and lethargic. The Pacers got out to an early lead. The starting lineup, I saw a statistic today about how I don't have the exact numbers, but Jonas and Ibaka on the floor, it's tough on the eye test, and the numbers prove it too. But when they play individually, without the other on the court,
yep,
they play well because they are both two talented players. So it's our starting unit has just been tough, seemingly all year.
Yeah, and I mean they benched JV to start the second half. We'll get into that, but really what brought us back in the first half was the bench, and that seemed to be the case over the past couple of games. We've had a lot of effort from the guys like Van Vliet, who's playing really well, given the opportunity now. Siakam, who's just an engine.
Norm.
So all the guys are playing really well. What are your thoughts on the Raptors bench this season?
Man, the bench has been great. They as I said, the starting unit when we start off just looks slow and sluggish, and then that's just a pure contrast to when the players that you mentioned, Fred and Pascal, come in, and then they just spark the team, and that's what we need from just 48 minutes of. Because as we saw in the Knicks game, the team just seems to go on runs of just disinterested basketball, and it's really tough to watch, right? Because we look so good at times, and then so bad. There's no real in between.
Do you think that we slip back into the typical Raptors demise of iso ball and just give it to DeMar and he just makes his moves and takes a shot? Do you think that that's the reason that the starters play bad, or do you think it's that perhaps we need sort of a lineup adjustment and maybe put some of the bench players into the starting rotation to try to motivate the starting players to play better? Or do you think maybe even the chemistry is just not good with some of the starters and it needs to be shuffled around?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily the starting unit that just plays the iso ball, because we've seen the Raptors, for the starters and the bench, move the ball throughout stretches of the year, and both units have looked great just swinging the ball and running the new offense. I think it's the team as a whole sometimes, just whether it's the starters or the bench on the floor, do revert back to those old habits, and those are the things that we got to break to, if we want to be a legitimate contender in the league. So I wouldn't say it's just a specific lineup. I think it's something, just a habit that we got to break. When things go bad, we can't revert back to old habits. We have to trust what we're doing. Is
that the Masai culture reset that he's talking about? If we can completely get rid of iso ball in times of in periods where we're just not able to put the ball in the basket, do you think that Masai would be grinning on the sidelines or in the booth wherever he's watching the game saying, "This is what I meant"? Is that what he's talking about?
Yeah, for sure. There's a misconception. The Raptors are a really good isolation team, and it can be an effective way to score for the team, obviously, because we have guys like DeMar and Lowry that can get their own buckets, even guys like Norm and Fred. But we can't use that to save us.
Yeah. Right?
When things aren't going well, that can't be what we revert back to.
Yeah. No, that's true.
So
now Lowry, he actually, I don't want to cut you off. Do you have something to say before we pop into the next thing?
No, let's get into it. Lowry's second quarter was on fire. He was shooting the lights out.
All the way from Mississauga, all the way from Halifax. I love Jack Armstrong when he tosses in those city references.
Matt Devlin. Matt Devlin's good.
Is it Matty D that talks about?
Matty D usually throws them in. We had Matt and Leo on the broadcast today.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on Lowry this game and the whole season?
Well, Lowry obviously started off well documented, not shooting the ball very great. So it's just awesome to see him shooting the ball with his legs underneath him. And he had a wrap on his hand. I don't know if you noticed that during the game. he had a wrap on his hand because he apparently injured it during the Knicks game. But it's good to see it's not affecting his shot, at least through one game of playing on it.
Well, it would be disastrous to the team, I think, if we lost Lowry and then also didn't have DeLon.
Yeah,
we'd be really searching for point guards. I mean, and Van Vliet obviously is terrific, but I don't know if he's ready to get tossed into the starting rotation yet.
Yeah, for sure. And then we'd have no one at point to back us up. We'd be running
Bruno,
Norm or someone.
No, Bruno.
Bruno at the point.
Bruno
I think that would be the worst position for Bruno.
No, we'll get a John. It's not Jonas. Oh my gosh, we got a Giannis. Antetokounmpo-esque player on our team. Probably better. I mean, maybe.
Yeah, Bruno Caboclo or Giannis Antetokounmpo.
The choice is pretty obvious. Bruno.
Yeah.
Okay, so we go into the second half.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Fred.
Yep.
So I'm looking through the box score here.
Mm-hmm.
The team had a very varied plus minus box score. So Jonas ended the game with a -20. OG ended the game with a -20. But Fred ended the game with 18 and Norm ended with 16.
Mm-hmm.
A +16.
Now that was
18
due in part to the run that Indiana went on late. While the starters were out, just for the benefit, I guess, of any of the viewers that are unfamiliar, given I wasn't even very familiar with this stat line. Plus minus is just the total points scored for your team when you're on the court versus scored against you when you're on the court.
Differential. Yeah,
exactly. Obviously the bench players have been playing really well. I don't know if you can necessarily attribute it to them playing that much better. I think it was also due in part to some of the offense from the Pacers this game, which, maybe we can talk about that a little bit now. You have
yeah, for sure. Plus minus isn't always telling of how players played, but it just very exemplifies how this game went. It was a game of runs, and the worst run for the Raptors came late. It was a one-player run. Lance Stevenson,
Mr. Blow in your ear.
Blow in your ear. Yep. It's very tough to watch Lance Stevenson when you're cheering for the opposing team. So for the viewers, that just to recall what happened, Lance Stevenson drilled three straight threes down the stretch of the game, and also blatantly fouled DeMar DeRozan twice. Coming down the stretch, no calls, and it looked like DeMar DeRozan was about to fight that man.
Yeah,
Serge Ibaka had to hold him back.
You know what? I think DeMar could have held his own. It is surprising, though. It really is surprising to see super underrated players that don't succeed in a particular area of the game. Like Lance Stevenson is not a three-point shooter at all. I'm pretty sure his season percentage.
He's very streaky, but
I wouldn't even call him streaky. He just doesn't make threes very often. I think it's
like he's a streaky player. Like he's really bad or then really good, but he's still not really a great shooter.
That's fair.
Either way, yeah.
So that was that was kind of a surprise. It was tough to watch.
Especially it's back-to-back. That's the past couple games now. The opposing guards have just killed us, right? Yeah. Tim Hardaway the last game, and Lance probably wouldn't have played down the stretch of the game, but Oladipo went out with a apparent maybe knee or ankle injury. He had a limp. Didn't really catch what injury he might have had, but
yeah, and it'll be nice.
Wing defense.
It would be ideal if he isn't seriously injured to have to miss any games.
Yeah, for sure.
He's definitely a big piece for the Pacers this season, and
you'd hate to see someone go out with something serious when a player is playing at that level.
All right, to swing it over into our last little segment here.
Yeah.
We have the oh geez moment of the game. Ben, what is your oh geez moment?
Oh geez? Well, we just spoke on it, the Lance Stevenson run.
Yeah.
Just Lance Stevenson in general. That was just the definition of oh geez.
It's a very SMH moment, just shaking my head watching it. And we'll bring it into this one, maybe a little bit tougher to select this game, but the DeMarre Carroll Gold Star Award for the worst performance of the game. Who are you attributing to it? Last episode, of course, we gave it to the entire Raptors team for their third quarter performance. Who are you giving it to? Who are you bestowing this honor upon for this game?
Yep. So this dubious award is awarded to none other than Jonas Valanciunas tonight. Yeah, I love me some JV, but he was a -20 for the game. 6 points, 5 rebounds. Only played 13 minutes.
Yep. And what was his defense? It was scatterbrained.
His defense?
Yep. You know what?
He was slow, and it was tough to watch JV there tonight.
Perhaps, you know what? What would your thoughts be? Just last sort of fleeting discussion here before we conclude. What would your thoughts be on putting JV on the bench and starting Siakam?
Well, to speak on that, Dwayne Casey started Siakam to start the second half.
Yep.
During this game, so that could be signs of a possible lineup change in the future, as that's usually Jonas's time slot. He starts the game, so I don't know. To be fair to the Raptors, they did kind of look a bit uncomfortable as the rotations were all over the place. So the play was a bit sporadic. So that if Casey's throwing a lineup change, it might take a little while to get used to new guys playing with different people, right? So
yeah, we'll have to kind of work on the chemistry, on building that chemistry again with different different rotations. So
yeah, but I definitely agree, because I think Jonas can be very valuable coming off the bench, and just not having that cluttered front court of Serge Ibaka, and Jonas.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, just having Ibaka with Pascal Siakam, because Ibaka is more of a lumbering guy these days, right? Mm-hmm. So I think he'd be better off at the center, and then having Siakam's energy just in that starting lineup, and then maybe get Jonas's scoring punch off the bench, just to come in and that's what teams have been doing with players like Jonas. Mm-hmm. Guys like Greg Monroe, Enes Kanter last season, obviously he's starting for the Knicks now. These big guys are more inclined to come off the bench these days in today's league. Yeah,
so we have a game against Atlanta coming up tomorrow. Hopefully we can turn the ship around and
well, Atlanta just got a big win against the Knicks tonight.
That's true. Yeah,
so
a game that
the record is a bit deceiving. They've lost a lot, but they've all been close games. So
absolutely. We'll put the Raptors to the test, especially seeing as how they're kind of strung a little bit thin here now. It would be really nice morally to get a victory.
Two tough losses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
We definitely go ahead.
As the listener can hear in our tone, it's very very deflated, this podcast. We apologize for the sad ambiance of the podcast.
Listen, the Raptors will win, and we will be in very high spirits tomorrow. I can feel it in my bones. Also, if any of the listeners have ideas for what we should name the play of the day, we need something inventive and original. Yeah. Reach out to us, shout out, comment, whatever.
Riker.
Yes.
No backpick alley-oop lob from Lowry to DeMar this game.
I know. Was that perhaps the reason that we lost by 3 points?
I think.
Could it have been an and one alley-oop this game that brought us into overtime and then a miraculous victory? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I can hope and dream.
So that's the key. Throwing that backpick lob alley-oop.
Oh, man. So, well, that's it for me, Ben.
Yeah, that's it. Over here, hopefully, as you said, get the big win tomorrow against Atlanta.
Woo. Can't wait for it.